Jeremy, good afternoon. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How's everything, Melvin? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Long time coming. The last, I guess, year and a half now, we've known each other, running the same circles. Appreciate having you on. I think just to kick off, Jeremy, the purpose of the podcast today is for folks to learn a little bit more about your background. You're the CEO of Equinoxe, based in Canada, a home care provider. Learn a little bit about what you do in that market, your views on Canada, maybe the deal you did, and certainly talk about remote patient monitoring, which I know you folks are at the forefront at within the market that you operate in. Maybe a good place to kick off is just your background and how you got involved in home care in the first place and found Equinox.
Thank you. Good question. By luck, I started in home care by accident, I would say. But a bit of my background first. I'm from France. I cannot hide my accent so much. I'm doing what I can here. And I worked about 15 years in Europe, about 7 now in North America, mostly in fintech, in online payments to be specific, in different roles ranging from M&A to biz dev and partnerships and startups or listed companies. And at some point, I wanted to have the joystick. And when I was thinking about the next step, I got introduced to Danny Pollack, the founder of Equinox. And we had a great conversation. And one led to the next one to us partnering together in 2022. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, a couple years at the helm now, and
Mhm.
talk a little bit about Equinox, how it started and what your role is there, what you guys provide.
We do home care in Canada and mostly in the Greater Montreal area for in person and throughout Canada with remote monitoring. The company was created in 1998. Right now, following our most recent acquisition, we have about 300 nurses and caregivers on staff. So we are mid-sized. It's not big, it's not small,
Hmm.
but we have the right operations and scale to grow, which is very interesting. So I spent a lot of time on building the stack, making sure
Hmm.
we have the right tools, the right tech, whether it's internal or external, and the right team. And from there, the goal for us is to expand through both in-person and tech. So we do care management and caregiving.
Hmm.
And what makes us a bit special, I'd say, is that there is no contract with us. When the family joins, they join for as much as they need. Um, I know some companies, they offer a minimum of a couple of weeks, a month, whatever that is. For us, it's you start and you pause as you see fit. And it's important because we want to provide flexibility. So that's something that is very much appreciated. Um, the Canadian market is a bit different from the
Sure.
US one. Uh, Probably less big players, number one. And number two, differences because it's a different country and culturally people tend to go more to residencies, especially in Quebec, where we are based. But in Ontario, in BC, and in Quebec, of course, there is a huge need. And the senior population in Canada is following the same track as most modern societies. The numbers of seniors the number of seniors age 85 plus in Canada is expected to triple by 2050. And it already doubled between 2001 and 2020. So it's happening.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I know sitting across the pond here in New Jersey, we have in the US very similar growth dynamics, double, tripling of population, especially when you think about not just the growth of population, but vis-a-vis that, the growth and the need for caregivers to serve that aging population. And there's definitely a big supply demand imbalance there, which I think is going to lead for not years, but decades to come a
Yeah.
need for the services that companies like Equinox provides. And I think in Canada as well, it's a little bit of a different market for reimbursement compared to the US, right?
Yeah, you're right. I was about to mention we don't do public services. We just do private pay, as you call it,
Hmm.
with families. But for most people, you have free access to a few services. It's not perfect, but it's here, and you might be on a wait list for some time, but it's free. And that's something that most Canadians would enjoy. Not everyone is using it, but when you need it, it's amazing. So we have a few clients that have services from the government for free for, let's say, 10 hours a week, and they need another 30 hours, 50 hours from a private partner like Equinoxe, and then we come
Hmm.
in and we complement. There are a few programs where our caregivers can be with a family, but paid with the government as well. It's very rare, and we don't work with public services again as a direct bidder, but we do partner together when there is a need. Yeah,
Interesting. And
yeah.
I think you mentioned before some of the things that help you differentiate. And it's this, I think historically Equinox was a kind of pure play care business, but you've, based on your background, been able to interject more of a technology component, and a remote patient monitoring is something that you're doing. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think innovation was always big for the company. Way before my time, we launched uh, our own software, client management software, in-house. We built it from scratch, and it became very innovative at the beginning of the millennium. But of course, it doesn't age well.
Hmm.
But 20 plus years ago, we were already digitized. Progress notes would be entered by caregivers, nothing in paper, and that was our way. And we would already text caregivers, text clients from that tool. We had to sunset the platform in 2021, and we moved to the cloud since with one of the vendors here, and that was our first try in technology many years ago. Another venture that was very successful for the company is that we launched our own virtual care app, a mobile phone app to talk, chat, or video call a nurse or a doctor. That was 7 years ago, and
Hmm.
it started as probably an employee benefit program. You know, you're working with that big corp, and they have a plan for everybody, and for free, as an employee, you can get access to that self-service. And it went very well at the onset of the pandemic. And TELUS Health acquired the division in December 2020. And so that business called EQ Care in Canada became
Hmm.
TELUS Health Virtual Care. And when I joined just after, first of all, most of the team left to TELUS, obviously, as part of the deal. And we had to rebuild for the traditional home care. But on top of that, we still had this feel or entrepreneurial vibe for that adventure. So we started a search for what could be next for Equinox, and we stopped on ways to keep seniors safe around the clock and
Hmm.
to complement in-person care. When you look at the statistics, it's not looking great. When you and I will turn hopefully 70 or 80 plus, who's going to look after us? And there are not enough people working in this industry today or in the future, and the trajectory doesn't look good. So that's the elephant in the room in home care. The way we do it is a bit antiquated, and you need to bring some technology. If my budget as a senior is to get 20 hours of care, I might be on my own for 148 hours for the rest of the week, right? That's a lot of occasions for me to fall, to have an issue that might not be attended, and I don't want to be on the floor for 3 days. So we were looking for the right partners in that area, and we wanted to avoid all the blockers. Again, my background is in tech, so I know from my payment years that innovation has to be seamless and making life easier to be successful. So we will call that in the fintech the invisible payment or the invisible checkout experience. You're clicking on that ride sharing application, and you're opening the door, closing the door. The payment happens in the background. Same on the marketplaces online. You just click buy, you get your stuff, but you never enter your credit card because it happens in the background. You're on file. What would be the same seamless experience for a senior? It means I don't want to wear a device, seamless. I don't want to have a dead angle. I don't want that sensor to only show a pattern or a problem if I'm in this room, but not in this corner. So we didn't want a radar technology. We didn't want infrared and all this antiquated technology. We wanted something that was disrupting the way you can look after someone and keep that someone safe. Also, we didn't want to be a bother to the family. I don't want an app to download as a loved one's son or relative. I want a third party, a home care company, in most cases, to look after that person and maybe call me if there is something I should know. But I'm not here to know if mom or dad opened the fridge or didn't come back to bed at 2 a.m. I might not be available, so I don't want to be the bottleneck. So with these prerequisites, we searched for the right partners, and we got very lucky to get introduced to an amazing platform named Sensi.ai from the US, created in Israel and now in Austin and all over. And we became their first Canadian client. That's why you have a little flag in the background. This is the kit that you can use with Sensi, and it's a plug that works with acoustic. So there is nothing to wear for a senior. There is nothing to do. You just plug the thing, and that care and safety program keeps seniors safe around the clock through keywords and key noises, key sounds that are going to be a trigger. So I have a dashboard. My coordination team has a dashboard, and we'll get a notification when something is outstanding. Could be a fall, a call for help, could be a risk of a medication error, could be suspicion of the early signs of a UTI or even pneumonia today. And that's amazing because it crosses the walls. It works just with sounds, with audio, right? With acoustic. And it saves lives. We saved a few lives with this program. Just 2 days ago, we had a fall at 2 p.m. at a seniors who had no services with us, no ongoing care with us right now. And we were able to call the son, and the son was able to dispatch services and attend to the needs. Amazing, right? So that's what we do.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that solves a number of issues. Not just the fact that sometimes, like you mentioned, you're not providing care in that example from a couple of days ago. But if that person couldn't have the ability to get care, especially you mentioned you guys are what we call private pay in the US. Yeah. This is a way to kind of connect them with primary care and other providers and family members that can step in. I also like the fact that you're thinking about it from an integrated standpoint where you have your caregivers, but it sounds like there's a team on the back end that kind of reviews the data and makes sense of that so that you have informed data that helps you make decisions. Because the reality is it's going to be hard to get folks in home 24/7. It's just not possible. And this is a way to bridge that gap. So what's hearing about that, thinking about the impact that it can make, how does that factor into the way you look to grow the business?
Well, first of all, for the first time, you don't need to be physically where the client is. So I have a few clients that are what we call standalone with us. They just have the technology. They are not ready for home care. They don't want or they don't need home care. Maybe they are with another home care company, or maybe the kids are looking after them. But they might need some supervision at a few critical moments, and they want to be safe. So you could buy one of the pendants, and on top, or instead, you could have a technology like this one, and it keeps people safe. So it's a safety net, and that was the number one, I would say, consequence for us. Number two, we are growing because we have something else that nobody has in Canada yet, and we can differentiate ourselves. So for the same rate, for the same hourly rate, we have something on top. And we found a few clients that could not have a pendant because they have a pacemaker, or I have one who's disabled. She's blind, and she could not manage without something like this. And we have caregivers 40, 50 hours a week, but on top, for the rest of the week, we have that supervision, which is amazing. This is just the first step of our program. We are going to innovate with other services so that we can have that circle of care that is really 24/7. Remote supervision or monitoring in person when you need it, but also ancillary services, quick check-ins, and we will be building more as we go, including a score that could share how I'm trending. Am I getting better after my hospital stay? Am I going to possibly be at risk of being admitted because based on my pattern, and data is everything right now. So the same way you are on a healthy diet, you want to get some sleep, you want to do all the right things as an adult, seniors might not be doing the right things right now, building some strength, some balance, and they might need coaching. Same with their lifestyle. And the tech data is going to help us to prevent issues from happening, and we're going to keep people at home for longer, right? And that's the end goal. Healthier and longer at home.
Keeping seniors at home has, I think it's a 40 times multiple, 40 times cheaper from what we've seen in the US, might be different in Canada, to have home care versus having care in an acute setting. And you mentioned another comment earlier about the market that you operate in, being Quebec based, but also thinking about Montreal. There's only a handful of large players within the home care market in Canada. There's some that are backed by private equity. But as you mentioned, that fragmentation is something that if you think about the net impact of a technology product or suite of products that allows integrated care, you going out there and growing the business or partnering with companies down the road, it can really be more than a needle mover. It can have a really big impact, which brings me another question. I understand that you guys did your own deal recently.
Yeah. Look, the fact is, we are here for the long term. We've been around for a long time as well. And now that we established the right foundation from an in-person care or remote settings, we are ready to grow. And we were fortunate to meet with a few talented organizations. And during summer 2024, we finalized a deal, an acquisition of the SE Health private pay division in Quebec. SE Health, or St. Elizabeth Health, is a large not-for-profit organization from Ontario. And we just felt it was a great match to carry on their mission in Quebec. Quebec is a unique market. It's bilingual. It's a bit different, different rules, different laws, and it's not easy to navigate the province. So in a way, I'm lucky to be here because no one wants to come here. But from there, I can grow outside. It's an interesting angle, and this is where we are heading. We want to be coast to coast. It will take us years, and that's fine. We have plenty of time.
Yeah, I mean I think that's on the tips of everyone's tongue, right? They want to grow. How do you do it? And growing geographically is a really good way, surefire way, but it also has pitfalls. And like you mentioned with the acquisition you guys just did, each step along the way, what can be a positive to you can be a drawback for others, like you mentioned about being one market versus another. And that's something that groups have to take into mind. But with a long-term view like that, running the business forever, maybe you get coast to coast sooner than you think.
Well, I don't know about that yet, but I don't think we want to launch from scratch in a new market. I think partnering with the right home care companies will be the go-to. And we started to make a few approaches. Like every partner, it takes time to build the trust, the relationship. It takes time to agree on numbers and the future. But at the core of what we do, we have our brains and our hearts in the right place, I would say, and we know where we want to be, and we are here for as long as possible, like seniors at home in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have a long-term horizon, and we are independent. So the partnership agreement is very simple with Equinoxe, right? That's how we look at it.
Well, I think it's a great model, Jeremy. I love what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. So thank you so much.